welcome to the Red Leaf Card, your home for Canadian soccer news and views. My name is Jacob, and today we're going to be talking about the Canadian Championship preview. But first, here's your fixtures rundown. In Major League Soccer, Toronto FC getting defeated by New York Red Bulls 2-1. Club de Foot Montreal gets defeated by Nashville, and also Vancouver Whitecaps getting defeated by Chicago Fire 3-1. And for the upcoming Canadian Championship for 2025 for the preliminary round, as known, Vancouver Whitecaps will have the advantage that they will be in the quarterfinals. But what could be an actual great match for the first round, which will be a single knockout round for the 2025 Canadian Championship. And starting out with Valor FC and TSS Rovers. As known, Valor FC versus TSS Rovers is actually one of the best known of the biggest upsets in Canadian Championship, as TSS Rovers has been, as known, they've been big at Valor FC. But now I think it's going to go the other way, that Valor FC is going to go for redemption of what happened of getting defeated by TSS Rovers with their squad. I think this is going to be actually great that they're going to be versing TSS Rovers and finding out that they're not to actually be to touch. They want to actually succeed in this Canadian Championship, to actually win. And I think they will actually win this round and move on to actually verse Vancouver Whitecaps. And I really see this match that they will be versing them, but it does question the final whistle, who will actually win, because TSS Rovers are actually really competitive in this Canadian Championship, and a lot of people will probably think it's on the side for TSS Rovers because they know how their strategies are, but it does have to think of Phil Dos Santos, how smart his strategies are for this upcoming Canadian Championship, because everyone wants to see Valor FC getting that redemption. So this one is actually a must-watch for this upcoming Canadian Championship, and I really see it really going well. And the battle in Pacific FC versus Vancouver FC, it's a BC matchup. And I really do say this, it's going to be a good match. It's a good match for the BC locals. And some people are going to say who's going to actually win this one for it. And a lot of people, in my opinion, for this matchup, it could go to Pacific FC in this one if we see some actual good strategies for Vancouver FC. And I see sometimes that Vancouver FC actually could go well if they have it. But right now, we're seeing that Vancouver FC has not done really well. Right now, they're actually going slowly to try to be that competitive team in the Canadian Championship, but we're not seeing that actual pump that moves them to actually get those goals in to take that lead and take that W against a actual really competitive team into the next round. And Pacific FC, as known, they've been versing really good teams. They versed Vancouver Whitecaps. They were really good against them. They've been versing a lot of good teams in the Canadian Premier League. They were really well. So Pacific FC, no doubt. You might think that Vancouver FC could actually beat Pacific FC, but Pacific FC, I think they're really too competitive in the Canadian Championship. I would have to side this. The roster that they have, they're going to move on to the quarterfinals for the 2025 Canadian Championship. And moving on to Calgary FC versus Edmonton Scottish, now you would say debuts for League One Alberta. Calgary FC is going to think about their newcomers as basically just too easy for them. It's known that everyone knows that Calgary FC has been playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They had a great game in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but right now they're going to be versing in the Canadian Championship, and they are those competitive. This is a competitive team that really wants to be competing for the Voyageurs Cup, and probably we're going to see them as they're going to take it a little bit easy on Edmonton Scottish, and it probably would side for Calgary FC. So Edmonton Scottish has to find a way that they're going to find a strategy that will find a way to actually find some goals, like for example, like how TSS Rovers did. And that's what we might see Calgary FC get a look at it and react that, oh, this is a team that to not actually make fun of. And sooner or later, they would have to take that Edmonton Scottish is not a team to make fun of or to play with. But how Calgary FC has played right now in this roster, it's just to me that I think Calgary FC moves on to the next round, and it will be versing Pacific FC in the quarterfinals. And moving on to Ontario, Atletico Ottawa versing the team in Milton, Scorsopi FC. Atletico Ottawa is showing that they want a strong team. They've been signing players, and they've shown that they really want the regular season. They want to be the regular season champs. They want to be in that CONCACAF Champions Cup for this upcoming season. And they really want to be also competitive in the Canadian Championship. But you're looking at Scorsopi FC. They also want to be really competitive and show some moves on against the Canadian Premier League teams. And we've seen a lot of teams in League One Canada that shown that they're really competitive, and probably we might see Scorsopi FC maybe showing their strategies on the field out there. But you're looking at Atletico Ottawa, they have a new coach, you're looking at new players, and the questions if could that roster be competitive enough to make to the next round. And Scorsopi FC, they actually show that they're actually a team to watch. And yes, a lot of people always want a basic team that could show that they are really competitive, and a lot of them are always to watch. They always want to see a provincial team to be really competitive. And I think Scorsopi FC is also a team to watch. They always want to see those teams. And I think League One Ontario has a team that's really competitive. As known that Simcoe County Rovers was a team to watch. We've seen St. Laurent from League One Quebec was a team to watch of when they were versing Halifax Wanderers. But right now, it's now a new team that they want to see in the Canadian Championship that has their chance. So my view on who might move on to the next round, it might be Atletico Ottawa because how of their roster it could be competitive, but it could go the other way around. Right, but my side is Atletico Ottawa moving on to the quarterfinals. So moving on to York United versus FC Laval. So it's something also to look out for if York United was versus FC Laval in this upcoming Canadian Championship. I think it is basically a match that everyone should look, because you might see an upset here. You actually think to yourself, York United, it's an easy matchup, but you look at, you're having a new head coach, you're having these new players. Also, you question, can this team actually do well? And this is a team that's really young. So it does put in that team roster of saying, can they actually win against a League One Canada team? And it also looks at saying to fans that always say, don't worry, they will beat FC Laval, but it's always going to be like that. But when the final whistle blows and you're looking at the score, it's going to be like, it's always going to be that pressure for York United fans. It's going to be a good matchup. I do really think that York United versus FC Laval is going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a home game for York United, and yes, I think it might actually make York United. But I think that looking at my prediction for this matchup, I think that still York United could move on to the next round and could actually see the rivalry against Atletico Ottawa versus York United. And I think that this is something that York United fans want, and also Atletico Ottawa fans want. And looking at the next matchup, it's going to be, I think a lot of fans don't want of seeing in the first round, Toronto FC versus Club de Foot Montreal. They always want to see a matchup of Toronto FC versus Club de Foot Montreal in the finals or even the semifinals. But you're seeing Toronto FC versus Club de Foot Montreal in the first round, and a lot of fans are going to look at this saying how Toronto FC, Club de Foot Montreal are really struggling in the regular season for Major League Soccer, and I just think that it's not gonna be a good look for both teams, and it's gonna be I think this is gonna be an even matchup for this first round, and it's going to be a question: could this go all the way for PKs? And that's something that I think a lot of TFC fans are going to say no to that they don't want to see a penalty go to penalty kicks at this point. We've seen a lot of struggles that Toronto FC does in PKs. They've never won in a penalty kick situation, and we've seen multiple times about it. And it could go really, what I've said, that it's not going to really go well because Toronto FC, in my opinion, could actually lose this game. So, in my opinion, at this point, who's going to go to the next round? I think Club de Foot Montreal could actually beat Toronto FC because right now, but it could be Toronto FC moving on. It could be Club de Foot Montreal, but I'm still thinking that Club de Foot Montreal will move on to the next round because it's like a 50-50 situation, but a lot of people might think that TFC could move on. I still think Club de Foot Montreal moves on to the next round, and they might verse Forge FC, Halifax Wanderers. Again, you're looking at Forge FC versus Halifax Wanderers, that final matchup for the first round. And this is something that Forge FC also has to look out of how Halifax Wanderers of their roster is going to be for their upcoming season. But Forge FC, the team that went to the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they didn't do well for their 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup, but still you have a good roster for the upcoming Canadian Championship. And I think you look at Halifax Wanderers, they also have a good roster, but looking at it could be what the final score could be like. It could lead to probably penalty kicks, or it could be like a 1-0 or a 2-1 score. And I think that it could be that final score, but probably not. I think that a lot of fans could think that it's probably not. And I think that Halifax Wanderers for their upcoming season could be actually competitive for this Canadian Championship. And Forge FC also think they're really competitive in this season. But I'm going to stick with Forge FC moving on to the next round, and they will verse Club de Foot Montreal for it. And I think that's what I would put for my teams that would move on to the quarterfinals and see how the first round of the Canadian Championship would look like. And that's full time of the Red Leaf Card. You could follow us on X, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm your host, Jacob, subbing out.